A 48-year-old black woman stepped through the front doors of a luxury hotel. She moved like she knew exactly where she was going. Calm, focused, no rush. No assistant by her side. No suitcase with flashy logos. Just a plain canvas duffel over one shoulder and a quiet presence that said she didn't need to prove anything. The lobby was all marble floors and gold trim. People behind the front desk were tapping on keyboards, talking into headsets, barely, looking up. When she reached the counter, the receptionist glanced at her, then offered a polite but distant smile. The kind you give to someone you think won't be staying long. Checking in? The girl asked, already turning back to the screen. Yes, the woman said, her voice soft. Name? She gave it. There was a pause. The keys stopped clicking. The smile faded just a little. I don't see anything under that name. That's all right, the woman said. There should be a suite held for me. The receptionist straightened her posture slightly. We're actually at full capacity tonight, she said. Guests only. For a moment, there was a quiet stillness. Not awkward, not angry, just still. The woman didn't argue, didn't raise her voice. She just stood there, taking in the space. The way her presence didn't seem to register with anyone around her. Like she didn't belong. The lobby kept buzzing, phones rang, guests laughed. A bellhop rolled by with a luggage cart stacked high. And in the middle of it all stood the owner of the entire building, turned away like she was nobody. She didn't say who she was, not yet. She just blinked once, slow and steady, and took one quiet breath. Because she'd seen this before. And she knew exactly what came next. The hotel was in the middle of downtown Denver, surrounded by glass towers and coffee shops filled with people on laptops. A place where business deals got made over black coffee and early morning emails. The lobby smelled like expensive candles and lemon polish. Everything looked spotless, the kind of clean that costs real money to keep up. She walked in quietly, her steps soft on the polished floor. No loud shoes, no perfume cloud trailing behind. Her slacks were pressed, her blouse a soft blue. Simple, but elegant. Nothing about her screamed, rich. But if you looked closely, everything she wore fit just right. It was the kind of style that didn't need to brag. She had no assistant, no driver waiting outside, no rolling suitcase. Just a small canvas duffel that hung from her shoulder like she packed light on purpose. People barely noticed her at first. She didn't pull out her phone. She didn't make eye contact with anyone. She just moved through the space like she'd done it 100 times before. Behind the counter, a young receptionist with long acrylic nails was flipping through screens. She looked up quickly, offering that same smile she gave every stranger. She didn't expect to stick around. The woman returned it, polite, warm, easy. Checking in? The receptionist asked, already halfway through the routine. Yes, the woman replied. Calm. Sure. Name? She gave it. The receptionist typed, then paused. I don't see any reservation under that name. The woman didn't flinch. There should be a suite held for me. The receptionist looked again, then leaned back. I'm sorry. We're at full capacity tonight. Guests only. It was subtle the way her tone shifted. Not rude, just final. Like she'd already decided the woman didn't belong. She didn't ask who she was. Didn't wonder if she might be someone important. The thought didn't even seem to cross her mind. The woman stayed still. No eye roll, no protest. But something in the air shifted. Quiet and sharp. Like the beginning of a storm, no one had noticed yet. The woman didn't move. She didn't ask to speak to someone else. She didn't explain who she was. Instead, she calmly repeated, There's always a suite held for me. Her tone didn't change. It stayed steady like she wasn't making a request, just stating a fact. But the receptionist didn't even blink. She glanced back at the screen, tapped a few keys like that might suddenly change something, then said, again, Sorry, ma'am, we're fully booked tonight. Without a confirmed reservation, there's nothing I can do. The woman's smile stayed in place, but the energy shifted. She looked up, past the front desk, past the rows of keys, and locked eyes with the polished brass plaque on the wall behind them. The one with the hotel's name engraved in gold. Her name was part of that name, but no one here seemed to know it. "I understand," she said softly. The receptionist hesitated. "Let me call the manager." "Go ahead." It didn't take long. A man with a wrinkled shirt and a half-straight tie stepped out from a hallway. He had a clipboard in one hand and a badge clipped to his belt. His face was already tense before he even heard the full story. "She says she has a suite under the owner's block," the receptionist said too loud. "But there's no reservation under her name." The man looked at the woman, then at the screen, then back again. "We're at full capacity tonight," he said, forcing a polite tone. "Can I ask who you spoke with when you booked?" She looked him dead in the eye. "I didn't book. I don't need to. I'm the owner." He blinked like she'd said something in another language. "The owner?" She nodded once. "This hotel is part of my portfolio. My name is on the ownership papers. You should have a suite held under the owner block." He didn't answer. Instead, he turned, muttering something into his walkie-talkie as he walked away. And that's when security showed up, not in a threatening way, just enough to make a point. One by the elevator, one by the lounge, a little reminder that she wasn't supposed to be here. Still, she didn't react. She didn't raise her voice. She didn't demand anything. But the quiet in the room got heavier. Guests had started to notice. A couple near the fireplace paused mid-sip. Someone glanced over from behind a laptop. The front desk girl glanced around, suddenly unsure, and the woman just stood there. Calm, unmoving, watching it all, letting them show exactly who they were, without her having to say a word. She stepped back from the counter just a few feet, enough to be out of the center. No scene, no sigh. Just a quiet move toward the marble column near the edge of the lobby. She pulled her phone from her coat pocket, unlocked it, and dialed. No hesitation, no scrolling. She already knew the number by heart. When the call connected, she didn't waste time. "It's me. I'm at the Denver property. They've denied me access. Fix it." That was it. No raised voice, no long backstory, just facts, just the truth. The call lasted 26 seconds. She hung up, slipped her phone back into her coat, and leaned lightly against the pillar. Calm, like she was waiting for an elevator. Not pacing, not glaring, just still. Behind the front desk, the receptionist was pretending to look busy, clicking between tabs on the screen, hands moving but eyes jumping. The assistant manager hadn't come back yet. One of the security guards shifted his stance by the elevator, now clearly watching her. Not aggressive, just alert. Like he didn't know what she might do next. But she wasn't doing anything. That's what made it worse. Everyone around her had started to feel it. That uneasy, quiet shift. Like the floor had tilted just a little. Like something big was coming, but no one could say exactly what. Across the lobby, two guests leaned in closer to whisper. Someone near the bar paused mid-sip. The energy in the room had changed. And even though she wasn't saying a word, everyone knew it had to do with her. The receptionist checked her phone under the desk. Her thumb tapped fast. Probably Googling. Probably trying to figure out who this woman really was. Probably thinking this was going to go way beyond her pay grade. But the woman stayed quiet. She wasn't rushing anyone. She was giving them a chance to feel what they'd done before the fallout arrived. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime and two men stepped out. One wore a fitted gray suit, the other a company fleece with a badge clipped to his chest. Neither of them looked like regular hotel staff. They didn't stop to look around. They knew exactly who they were there for. The man in the suit spotted her first. His face changed instantly. His walk got faster. "Miss Claiborne," he said, voice tight and nervous. "I'm so sorry for the confusion." Behind him, the other man, breathing a little harder like he'd jogged part of the way, nodded, quickly. "We're taking care of it right now." The front desk receptionist froze. Her face lost all its color. The manager, who'd disappeared earlier, stepped back into view and looked like he wanted to melt into the carpet. The woman, Miss Claiborne, didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She just stood there and watched how fast the room flipped. How quickly people's tones changed. How their eyes, once unsure and dismissive, were now wide with fear and fake respect. The same people who couldn't see her a few minutes ago were now talking to her like she was royalty, like they'd known, all along. Like none of this had just happened. She didn't need to say, "I told you so." The silence did it for her. One of the men whispered into his phone, pacing near the window. The other gave orders about clearing a suite and rerouting a driver. Suddenly, everyone was moving, adjusting, apologizing. And still, she hadn't raised her voice. She just kept watching, not because she needed the apology, but because she wanted to see how different people acted once they finally realized who she was. Respect came fast. But it came after the title, after the panic, after the fear of consequence. And that was the part that stung, because it meant they never really saw her at all, just the power they thought she didn't have. As the managers scrambled and staff tried to recover, her eyes drifted, not to anyone in the room, but to a memory. It came without warning, like old film playing behind her eyes. She was 28, standing behind a scuffed front desk at a budget inn just off the highway. The uniforms were too tight, the lobby lights too harsh, and the coffee always burnt. She was new, quiet, careful not to mess up. But even when she did everything right, it didn't matter. Security watched her like she didn't belong there. Guests called her sweetheart or honey, even when she wore a name tag. Once a man spilled coffee and blamed her for not warning him it was hot. No one stood up for her. No one listened. She had to swallow every unfair moment and smile through it. She remembered standing in the back room one night after her shift, staring at her reflection in the tiny bathroom mirror. Her eyes tired, her feet sore, but her mind clear. She had told herself, "If I ever run a place of my own, no one will feel this small on my watch." That promise never left her, and now here she was, 2 decades later, in one of her own hotels, being treated like a stranger, like her story didn't matter, like her face didn't belong on the other side of the desk. It didn't make her angry. It made her tired of proving herself over and over, tired of seeing the same patterns play out even after everything she'd built. But it also reminded her of why she started in the first place. She didn't just build hotels. She built places where people were supposed to feel seen. And tonight, that promise was being tested all over again. The next morning, just after sunrise, she stepped into a small boardroom tucked behind the concierge desk. It wasn't flashy, just a long table, plain chairs, and a coffee tray that hadn't been touched. 3 people sat waiting. The receptionist, Kayla, her hands folded tightly in her lap, the assistant manager, Neil, eyes fixed on a spot in front of him, and a woman from HR, notepad already open, pen in hand. She didn't sit. She stayed standing at the head of the table, calm, collected. No anger on her face, just a quiet focus. "I'd like to hear what happened last night," she said. "From your side." No one spoke at first. Then Kayla mumbled, I didn't think someone like you." The woman raised an eyebrow. "Someone like me, how?" Kayla looked down. "I didn't expect you to be the owner." She nodded, slowly. "Was I rude to you?" Kayla shook her head. "No, ma'am." "Did I raise my voice?" "No." "Did I threaten you in any way?" "No." There was silence, the kind that weighs heavy in a small room. "I'm not here to fire anyone," she said finally, "but I am here for accountability." She turned to the HR rep. "I want full inclusivity retraining at this property. I want new bias checks built into the hiring process. No more guesswork, no more excuses." The HR rep nodded and scribbled notes fast. "I've built 17 hotels in this country," she continued, her voice steady. "Every one of them with the same goal, to create spaces where people are treated like people, no matter how they look, talk, or carry themselves. What happened last night doesn't just hurt me, it weakens everything we stand for." No one argued. They couldn't. She wasn't angry, and that somehow made it hit harder. She finally took a seat. Respect shouldn't arrive only after recognition. It should be the standard. There was nothing more to say. She stood, nodded once, and walked out. No slammed doors, no dramatic ending. Just a woman holding the line, not with volume, but with values, because real power doesn't shout. It shows up, holds its ground, and walks out the same way it walked in, unshaken. Later, when all the noise dies down, the CEO finds the receptionist alone. It's just the two of them now. No cameras, no audience to impress. The pressure is gone, and the conversation feels more personal. "I'm not here to fire you," the CEO says, her voice calm but steady. "I'm here to make you think." She pauses for a moment, allowing the weight of the words to sink in before asking, "Have you ever worked somewhere you felt small?" The receptionist, caught off guard by the question, lowers her gaze and nods. "Every day at my last job," she admits quietly, as if the memory still stings. The CEO leans in slightly, her eyes locked on the receptionist's. "So why'd you make me feel that way?" It's a heavy question, one that lands harder than the receptionist expected. For a moment, she doesn't know how to respond, the words caught in her throat. But then something shifts inside her. She takes a deep breath, and the truth comes tumbling out. I guess I didn't realize how much power I had in that moment," she says, her voice shaky. "I didn't know how to use it right." The room falls silent, both women lost in their thoughts. Then the CEO smiles softly, almost imperceptibly. "That's how change begins," she says, her tone warm, almost reassuring. "It's not just about calling someone out. It's about making them see themselves." And in that quiet, intimate moment, the receptionist starts to understand. Change doesn't come from punishment. It comes from understanding, growth, and the willingness to own up to mistakes. She walks out of the building, the weight of everything she's just done still hanging in the air. Even though she's leaving, the energy in the room doesn't shift right away. The staff scrambles behind her as if still processing what just happened. The doorman, the same one who greeted her earlier, opens the door. This time he says, "Safe travels, Miss Claiborne." It's a simple line, but the way he says it feels different now, almost like he understands the shift that just took place. She doesn't need to say anything in return. A small nod is enough to acknowledge the moment. As she sits in the back of the car, she's quiet, her thoughts drifting. She thinks of all the times in her life when she felt invisible, when she was overlooked or dismissed. She remembers those moments clearly, the ones where no one bothered to really see her, and how that weight sat on her shoulders. But now, after everything that's happened, something has changed. She starts to realize something she hadn't before. Dignity isn't something you're given, she reflects. It's not about begging for respect or recognition. It's about standing still, holding your ground, and not letting anyone take that from you. The car moves through the city, but her mind is elsewhere, on the journey she's been through. She knows that the path ahead won't be easy, but she also understands one thing clearly now. If they finally see you for who you are, don't let them forget. Never let them forget.